Hello, we're going to make a start. We have some amazing panelists here tonight. It's really good that you could all make it in your busy lives. I know what an important subject this is. So for those who don't know, my name is Jane Ring. I'm the Parent Support Officer at Look. I have a gorgeous, though she'd hate me to say that, visually impaired child who's also profoundly deaf, and she's 13. So it's an interesting age. And Look is a small national charity that particularly concentrates on mentoring for our young people, but we also have our parent support group that meets fortnightly and also runs these events. This is the first one with Victor, which is brilliant. And we have a counselling service and other things. So check out our website if you haven't been involved or are interested. And I'm going to hand over to Charlotte to say a bit about herself and Victor.
Hello everyone, I hope you can hear me okay. I'm Charlotte, I'm from Manchester, and I recognise a lot of the names on here. So you've probably been to some of the Victor workshops. I'm similar to Jane, we've both got gorgeous daughters. Scarlett's a little bit younger than Chloe, she's 11. She is blind with no useful vision with the condition optic nerve hypoplasia. She is very lightly on the spectrum, but I've given up diagnosis chasing on that one, and she has a learning disability. So she's considered a low verbal child, and she attends a complex needs school. Victor, very similar to Look, a small national charity. Our main focus is around delivering events that bring families and young people together with the view to helping them improve things like employability, qualities of life. I work specifically in parent services by running the Parents Online Facebook group and the Parents website, and I do quite a bit of work around early years also. So that's a little bit about Victor. Is that all right, Jane?
Yeah, and Charlotte at the end of the meeting will be sharing a bit about what the follow-up session, because today will be brilliant. We have got some lovely mentors and specialists coming to talk to you. You'll hear a little bit as well from myself and Charlotte, but I always find that there's so much that comes up, it's good to chat about it. So that's the opportunity next week on the 18th, and Charlotte will be hosting that with my support. So if everyone's happy, then we'll begin. Just so you know as well, we will do this in sections. So we're going to hear initially from the lovely Melissa, who works for a charity, Positive Futures, and her student social worker. So they will chat, and then we'll pause and have some time for questions. There's a lot of people on the call, so feel free to kind of ask questions and chat. Just so you know, my colleague Andrea, who also works for Look, is in the background. She'll be helping monitor chat as well. So we are hopefully a dream team, and you'll get a lot out of this evening. So I shall be quiet. I shall spotlight Melissa. I can't spotlight Melissa and Iona, I don't think, but I'll give it a go. But they're the people that are going to speak next, and hopefully they'll introduce themselves.
Lovely, thanks, Jane. So hi, I'm Melissa. Do you want to say hi as well, Iona?
Hi, I'm Iona. It's a bit weird doing this over Teams. It seems so strange.
And we work for Positive Futures Northwest, which is a mental health charity based in Lancaster, and we support people with their mental health. I also I have a rare genetic condition called Alström syndrome, and that affects me in a few different ways, but kind of the most predominant sort of features of that are that I'm totally blind. I've got moderate hearing loss, so I have hearing aids in both ears. I have heart disease, lung disease, and kind of like a few other fun medical conditions. So we're kind of coming at this from a double angle, sort of a bit of a double hat. So Iona is our final year, final placement social work student. So I like to kind of think she's on the kind of the front line. I work remotely, but Iona's on the front line, and she deals with a lot of our service users who do experience loneliness and isolation. So I thought what we do is I could maybe tell you a little bit about kind of my journey, and then Iona can maybe some things that she's noticed with people coming into the centre, and then maybe a few sort of tips and techniques to overcome that. I was going to say, is that okay with everyone? But we've got a lot of people here, so I'm just going to assume that everyone is nodding emphatically. So my parents noticed my eyes when I was around 9 months old. And we went through like, is it a brain? What is it kind of thing? So we got my visual impairment diagnosis when I was around 2.5. And then I kind of lost all of my vision between the age of kind of 16 and 21. And around sort of that time as well, I had heart failure. So I kind of was in ICU for a while. And then my cardiologist kind of noticed this link between everything that was going on and wondered if it would be Alström syndrome. So from there, we kind of did the genetic testing, and kind of years down, like a few years ago, I got my Alström diagnosis, and then I got it confirmed earlier last year. So I'm still feel quite new to it. I always kind of went to a mainstream school. When I say kind of, I actually did go to a mainstream school, so I don't know why I was vague. So I went to a mainstream school. I've always had plenty of friends and, had quite a good social network, but I have had periods in my life where I've not had friends, and kind of trying to understand and analyze it a little bit, I guess, in my later life. I've been to university. I'm a qualified social worker myself, and I'm retraining at the moment as a counsellor, because that's kind of where my passion lies. And obviously for that counselling course, we've had to reflect and do a bit of self-analysis. So I think I was a big part of sort of pushing away friends. I think I got to an age, I think it was about 9, when I realised that I was different, and I had well, as I saw it, I had a problem. I mean, that's not the case, but you're 9, so you don't think, no, as an adult. And at this stage, I became very isolated, very withdrawn. I didn't really communicate with my parents, so that's how I felt. But they noticed I've been very sociable. The school had organised, I'd kind of grown up with my best, we were kind of like 6 weeks apart, so we were very close, and I'd known it all of my life. And then the school didn't feel she was developing properly, so we got split up, but they kind of didn't explain it in a proper way. And then at secondary school, I picked deliberately a very big secondary school because I knew that I wanted to go to university and I wanted to get used to a large environment. And all through secondary school, really, I had a really big friendship group. I would consider, I didn't, but looking back, I consider myself as a popular person. But I think I kind of not understanding how my condition, there's a lot I didn't know about my condition because it wasn't diagnosed. But also, I think when I look back at it and think of those times when I was isolated, there were times like when my vision was changing and I wasn't able to articulate that properly. So we could go out at lunchtime once we got past like 14. And I found it really hard to do that. So I didn't go out and I think if I could have just gone back and said to my friend, this is what I'm struggling with, and articulated it properly. And I think it's always kind of been my non-acceptance really of my disability that's really held me back. I think of situations and instances where I've kind of held back and not done things, and it's because I've had this fear of saying what I actually need and people not understanding or not doing it. So in my later life now, but in my life at the moment, my life's kind of a lot about awareness. So I run a group with Alström UK. We've got a group of about 5 girls between 14 and 17, and it's all about kind of that transition from child to adult, and understanding that I don't use the word normal, but what is normal, and the girls feeling like they have somewhere to talk, voice their feelings, those things when, oh, am I weird because? It's kind of a group where people have that sense of belonging, and we're all over the country. We're all over the country, but actually it's formed a really nice sort of little network. So I'm gonna sort of hand over to Iona for a little bit now to maybe talk a little bit about what her experience of sort of loneliness and isolation, what she's seen working in the centre.
So I'm a social work student. So I'm about 70 days into my 100-day placement at Positive Futures, and every day is something, you know, a bit different, a bit new, which I absolutely love. But everyone that walks through that door has had their own experience with loneliness and isolation, and I think that's why things like this are just so great, that, you know, we can kind of spread awareness and kind of start and facilitate, you know, like these groups and support groups and peer support groups. And I think that like mental health awareness week is just such a great cause to kind of raise awareness for these kind of issues. Does anybody have any questions about Positive Futures in general? I'm not sure how much kind of people know about the agency or kind of what we do.
Yeah, please expand. That would be really helpful, I think, Iona. Thank you.
So we're based in Lancaster, and we are open 5 days a week, Monday to Friday, and we're a mental health and wellbeing charity that helps support people with their mental health. And a lot of the work that they do, it's kind of through peer support groups or various social groups. So there's absolutely loads of social groups going on at Positive Futures. Like sometimes like you'd be sat in the office and you can hear like someone singing ABBA and tambourines everywhere, and it's madness sometimes, but it's just a great environment that everyone's, you know, really encouraged to be themselves and kind of really come out of themselves. There is also kind of 2 courses that run called Looking Forward to the Future and Moving Forward with Confidence. They're kind of more like 10-week tailored courses. Yeah, if anyone has any questions, just feel free to put them in the chat and I'll try my best to answer them. I can't promise I'll know the answer.
Yeah, so if you just keep me up to date with what's in the chat, because sometimes I don't always hear my screen reader, like kind of says it very quickly, gets very excited and wants to say it all at once. So if there's anything I'm missing, just poke me, Iona, that's fine. Metaphorically poke.
Yeah, just people have asked about a bit more information about Positive Futures and your group, Melissa. So we'll add them into the resources that we send out to everyone, like post session, so everyone knows. Okay.
Perfect. I think one of the key things that I would want to say about Positive Futures, at the moment we're running the Crisis Cafe, which is actually funded by the NHS. So between 5 p.m. and 9 p.m. on a Monday and Friday, and we are looking to expand to other days, but it will be by appointment only on the other days. But on Monday and Friday, we have a walk-in service where adults who are experiencing kind of like mental or emotional distress have somewhere to go, and it's funded by the NHS to reduce the amount of admissions for mental health. If anyone has any questions about that, do let me know, but we're trying to kind of get the word out there more because it's still early days, and we can kind of take referrals from absolutely anyone. We're looking to kind of work with the police and the hospitals and as many agencies as we can, so we can support as many people as we can in Lancaster and the surrounding areas.
So yeah, so we usually work with adults, so people from 18 and over, but we have worked with children in sort of specific cases. Like I don't necessarily have an age, you know, the youngest client I work with is 11, which is very young. Our group, the other group that I run with Allstream UK is for teenage. We've got a girl group. I'm really looking for something for boys as well, because, you know, men's mental health is an issue. I don't think there's any hiding from that. So we are looking to expand. And what we do is we meet once, it's usually once a month, it kind of as the school calendar allows. And the girls suggest what topics they want to talk about. So we've talked about long cane training, we've had a talk on guide dogs, we've done like makeup, because the things, I think sometimes people have quite a stereotypical view of disability and things that disabled people can do. I mean, when I was told I was going to lose all my vision, and it is very superficial, I do cringe now, but my biggest worries were that I wouldn't be able to do my makeup and I would wear odd socks. So you know, like my brother, bless him, decided to wear odd socks so that if one person was doing it, there'd be a bit of a gang, and he still does that to this day. And I had a brilliant rehabilitation officer who was actually a male, but you know, actually got his wife to teach him how to put makeup on and showed me how to do it. And plus I have kind of, me and my mum do little girly things together. But I think one of the biggest things for me was kind of getting a handle on my self-esteem and my self-confidence, and realizing, because I think we kind of feel, you know, your blindness or your visual impairment doesn't define you, and it doesn't. It definitely doesn't. But because of that visual impairment, there's no getting around it. There will be things you have to do in a different way. So a big thing for me was actually getting my self-esteem to a point where I felt, you know, I do things differently. That does not have an impact on me as a person. And they're things, all the things that I do with my clients at Positive Futures, I've tried. I kind of think you're the best test for whether it's going to work or not. So I thought we could kind of, between the two of us, we could kind of demonstrate how the technique works. And this is for creating positive affirmations and kind of creating a good word list that you can create with your child. This can be done, it's dependent on what works best for you and what works best for them. So you can do it in a voice recording, so they have a positive word voice note that they can go to when they're feeling down, or doing a poster could be really fun. And what we do, the idea is it's looking for things that you've done in the day, tasks you've done in the day, asking your child like how they'd feel about another person doing it. So a thing I often use is, if someone's cooked a meal, how do you feel when they cooked a meal? And then they come up with some words of what they would say for when somebody's done that. And then we transfer that then. So instead of saying a person who does this is, we transfer it over to say, when I do this, I am. And then what we do over time is we come up with these words for each of these different scenarios and situations that become the bedrock of someone's personality, and they pop up again and again. So you can have this positive word list, and you say it before you go to bed and before you kind of start your day, because that's when your mind's most susceptible. But it's a really good thing to say, you know, when you're feeling down. And sometimes I call them like disabled days, where nothing goes right, where I just wish I had like an eye for 30 seconds just to do something. But then I've got my positive word list on my phone, and I read through my list out loud, and it has a really big impact on me and how I feel about myself. Because I think when I felt lonely and isolated, that has been the biggest thing. It's not how the world sees me, because when you ask people, they don't know what's happening underneath sometimes. And you know, talking to my parents, they've understood. I've been able to always talk to them, and what Jane says about that safe space, you know, my mum and dad have always been that soft place to land, or I've been able to chat to my brothers. But now I'm older, I think having like one of my closest friends has the same syndrome as me, and it's lovely just being able to pick up the phone and to have a doctor's rant with someone that absolutely gets it. So I don't know if anyone has any questions about what we've just said, or wants to kind of know about. We've also got a social anxiety workbook, which again is a little bit more meaty, and maybe it's something that a parent can digest. And there are some exercises. I think the only thing with that, again, it's not for children, but it's maybe something you can sit down and do with your child. Some of the exercises you can pad out a bit. I know Iona's done some exercise in that workbook with some of her clients. There's just something in the chat, Iona. Are you all right just to read it? I think it was from Shelley. It sounded like a question.
I find a lot of children and teenagers have social anxiety. My daughter is 15 and feels this. I think in my experience with young people, not that I have a lot of experience with young people, because I do work predominantly with adults, I think it is quite common, and especially at the moment, like the influence of social media is massive on like the mental health of young people.
No, I would agree. And I think social anxiety, I think it's heightened when you can't see, because some of those things that you would check, like one of my big things is people, it's not now because I don't care, but when I was kind of growing up, it was, I wonder if people are looking at me. You know, I wonder if people are taking in my cane and thinking, oh, what's that for? Is that weird? And I think I kind of really, I created an image for myself that people would look at. So I was very, I tried to be very gothic, you know, like vibrant hair colors, like top hats, and so that if people were looking at me, they were looking at me not because I was like the blind girl, but because I was like the girl with the purple hair. But then I kind of realized this was actually it was kind of to almost protect myself in a way from like art. And you don't know that kind of thing. Sometimes it's like, oh, it can be harder, you know, forming relate, like, is somebody smiling at you? Like, I would have no idea. You know, when people are like looking at you like, oh yeah, we'd like you to join us, like, I don't know that. So you miss so many cues. And I think it does really take that self-confidence and working up your self-esteem. I remember with like one of my oldest friends, I didn't like her at the beginning because she was quiet, and quiet people put me on edge because I can't see what they're doing. So I'm like, what's going on? And I remember saying to my mum, I had to go to her house, and I was like, I really don't want to go. And mum was like, why? And I was like, well, she's just so quiet. She's just so quiet. Mum was like, well, why don't you talk to her? And we had like an afternoon where we tried to play Cluedo. It didn't work because it was very inaccessible. And actually we like forced to talk to each other. And, you know, I was 10 then, I'm like 30 now, and she's still one of my closest friends. So a lot of it as well is sometimes if I know people are certain, like my brother he hates people looking at me because he's like, why are they doing it? But I think sometimes it's actually you having the confidence. And I do think sometimes if a person's not touched like by visual impairment, it's actually okay for them not to know. And I think sometimes it's actually saying, well, this isn't about, again, it is about you because they're looking at you, but it's not about you. This is actually about this mobility aid that you're using. No, they haven't seen it. And I think it's kind of taking that personality, that personal touch away. It's kind of taking it out, looking outwards. And because I didn't use my cane properly till I went blind, and I didn't have a choice really. I used to try not to use it as often as possible. And I think it is hard. I'm not saying it's easy at all, you know, having to be kind of like a awareness campaign just by like walking to class or walking down the street. But I do think I have seen a difference in how I feel, and I've had to take that away because the anxiety that I felt about people looking at me, I felt really bad about it. I felt really bad about it, and I felt like I was weird. And to be fair, I am weird, but I felt like I was weird, and that was a bad thing. So I did a lot of work on myself to understand myself. And actually, if people are looking at me, that's fine. I've said to people, like, if you can have a picture, because then you can take it home and carry on the journey. But I do think, you know, and I am aware it sounds very easy me saying it, but the years of me living it really weren't easy. And I've had a lot of help. I've had a lot of counselling over the years, and I've had a lot of hard conversations like with my parents. And I'm learning now, you know, I don't like saying, but I'm like 30 now, and my friend came over in March, and they were like, oh, should we go to town? And I still felt really scared of saying, I'm going to need some help getting around, can you help me? And it worked. It was absolutely fine. When I said that, she was like, of course we will help you, we didn't expect not to. And it was so empowering actually saying that. But I think a big thing is being comfortable with saying what you need. And maybe, I mean, I'm talking to my mum, like we didn't ever think of like, oh, to tell other parents like what might be helpful. We kind of we got by and everything was really fun. But maybe something that could be helpful is having maybe a bit of like sort of do's and don'ts, and maybe just saying like, oh, this is helpful. And it's more what's helpful, because people want to help you, but they don't want to appear patronizing or get in the way. So I don't know if you've got anything to kind of add, Iona.
Can I pause? Because there's been lots of comments. Andrea, do you want to go through them?
So there's been quite a lot of comments about, people have been saying, the first one, which I read to you, Melissa, saying that her 15-year-old feels the same. Somebody commented about the cane and how family just feel the same. Everyone's very interested in getting into the work for it. Ellen's just commented about social cues and picking up on them is really difficult, you know, which tying into when you're saying when people are really quiet. I think I pretty much covered it. Please shout at me if I haven't. Everyone's very behind you in saying, I think I'm getting the vibe that what you're saying is quite reassuring.
It's harder when also when your child has autism, so it's just another barrier. My daughter's also deaf, so she often misses. So she not only doesn't have the visual clues, she misses so much of conversation. So basically, it's really, really good listening. We have some other mentors to get onto, but have you got any top tips? I mean, it's been really, we need to support our children's esteem and kind of ways of working in support them with how they talk to other people. Are there any other things that you think?
I think what would be nice to know, Melissa, is you've always I've met Melissa a few times, and she's sounds like she's got some great parents. What were kind of the best things your parents did for you to kind of make you feel less lonely and make you feel a bit less anxious? Have you got any advice there for us parents?
I think it would definitely be, I think it's talk to your children, understand how they're feeling. And I mean, for a lot of my mum probably knew before I told her I was upset that I was. And we've always had really sort of clear conversations about how I was feeling. I know, like, once I didn't get invited to a birthday party because it was like a rollerblading party, and I thought that I wouldn't be able to do it. So mum I'm not suggesting this, but mum did a whole party for me so that I kind of didn't feel lonely, and we had a great time at like a ballpark, and we had cake and everything. But I think it's actually just being on a level and letting them know it's okay. You know, we always try and be the most positive version of ourselves, but sometimes you just have a day where it just all catches up to you and you just, this is unfair, and it is unfair. And I think maybe like take the pressure off yourselves. You can't, I know, like I love my dogs, they're my children. You love your children. You all love your children, but you can't fix, it's not necessarily about fixing. It's having the best life and doing what you enjoy with what you have. So I think we've always just had time as well to know, like, that is unfair, just come for a hug. It's okay. It's okay not to be okay. And my mum and dad always told me to try my best and put my best foot forward, but at the same time they've always been there for me for if things haven't happened how I wanted them to, the times where I felt like I have no one. I've said to my parents, I literally have no one.
Just to let you know, just tying into that, Angela has commented saying that her child finds she's hearing impaired and she finds it easier to talk to adults.
Yeah, I always loved adults, like maybe got me into the kind of role that I'm in now. Like I loved earwigging, I loved grown-up conversations, and probably what we'd call gossip nowadays. But I kind of think adults, they talk a lot louder. They don't mean to. I mean, I struggle kind of if I don't have my hearing aids in, or if I'm in a big group, I really struggle. So all my friends kind of know that I will mishear them, and we're actually, if I say something wrongly, like we can have a joke about it and it doesn't upset me because I know they've accepted that. But I used to love hanging around with adults when I was a child. Like the din ladies at school would be like, "Do you not have friends?" I'm like, "No, I do, but I'd like to hear what's happened to Jenny's husband, if that's okay." I'm halfway through the story. So I do think that's maybe, and we're in a very adult world. We have a lot of hospital appointments. Sometimes we have a TA in school. So I think you kind of in a more adult world anyway, and it's like, oh, you're not going to run off and play because that's something that's maybe a bit scary. So you do kind of like, I'll just sit here and see what's going on kind of thing. So I think that's something I definitely relate to.
Brilliant. Thank you both so much. You're here till the end, aren't you? So yes. What we're going to do is move on to the next panel members, who are two Look mentors. But if questions keep coming in, then we'll ask them again. There'll be another chance at the end for people to come back. But thank you both for your insight. It's really good to hear about Positive Futures and what you're doing, and any hints, tips or anything you can share in the chat as well. We will follow up with a document and pull all the resources. So thank you very much for now.
Brilliant, thank you.
Thank you.
Good. So hello, my name is Kaya. When I was 15 years old, I was diagnosed with a non-cancerous brain tumor. Unfortunately, and I had to have a 10-hour operation to debulk the brain tumor, which was fortunately successful. Unfortunately, on the same evening as my operation, my mum died due to a heart attack of all the stress of what was happening. So my life was literally tipped upside down. The last 10 years have been very difficult to adapt to a whole completely different life. But fortunately, my dad has been so supportive and has helped me so much. Also, I first started at St. Albans High School for girls when I was 15, and they were not supportive whatsoever with my visual impairment and were not happy to help me in any way possible. So I decided to leave the school and move to the Royal National College for the Blind, also known as RNC in Hereford. At RNC, I managed to successfully pass my A-levels, and for the first time in my life, it was a place where I actually felt included and also part of the whole college. What was fantastic about RNC, they taught me how to be independent as a young vision impaired person. Also, I met other people who were also vision impaired or blind, who were exactly the same age as me and who will go through completely the same situation, which was brilliant, because when I was at St. Albans High School, I was the only person in my whole school who was vision impaired or had any type of disability whatsoever, which was really difficult to cope with. And then a few years, and then also for me, the RNC was the first place, and the fact that I felt so included was fantastic. The teachers were very understanding, and also it was fantastic to meet other people. After I went to the RNC, I decided to go to Worcester University to read business and marketing. Unfortunately, Worcester University was not very supportive with my visual impairment, and they, likewise with St. Albans High School for girls, they were not happy to help. Although on the positive side, I decided to go for the disability officer at Worcester University, and unfortunately I was elected as the officer. Whilst I was the officer for the university, I went on BBC Radio 4 to talk about what it's like to be vision impaired and study at university. I also attended a roundtable meeting with Chris Skidmore, the education minister, to talk about disabled student allowance and also the funding and also equipment, which wasn't always as accessible to use for a vision impaired person, and also the funding and note takers didn't always turn up to my lectures. But unfortunately, I managed to resolve the situation. After Worcester University, I decided to move to the Open University to read psychology with counselling. I'm now in my second year at the Open University, and it has been fantastic. Not only is the website really accessible for vision impaired and blind people to use, but also all the tutors and lecturers are so understanding. I think now that it's been 10 years since, now that it's been 10 years since my operation, I can really, I need some water. Now that it's been 10 years since my operation and my mum has passed away, I can now realize that you can be happy and successful even though you have a visual impairment. sorry about that. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We'd love to hear about your connections and things as well, but we'll talk to we'll get Naz to speak, give you a chance to have some water.
No, I'm fine now. It's fine. Sorry about that.
Don't worry, but I'm going to ask Naz to speak, and then you'll both have questions afterwards.
Sure.
That's okay. Yeah, cool. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You are an inspiration. I hate, you know what I mean? It's just amazing where you've
I'm
got
so sorry
to.
about that.
Don't worry. Hi Naz, I've spotlighted you. There you go.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. I'm not on mute again, am I?
No.
Okay, so hello, I'm Naz. I'm 24 and I'm from East Sussex. I got diagnosed with a condition called rod cone dystrophy when I was about 9. So basically that's like deterioration of the rods and cones, and it's progressive. So like near total night blindness, and I struggle with like my depth perception, so detail, and there's patches all across my vision, and yeah, just complex, like color vision isn't great, light sensitivity and all of that, and I didn't struggle too much in primary or secondary school, I don't think. I think my sight started getting worse when I was about 18, when I started university and I had moved out, or it just seemed like it was worse because I had to be independent and do everything for myself, and it kind of hit me there, and I didn't really get much support from my parents growing up either. I don't think they were aware of the support that was out there, or the services, so I sort of found it for myself over the past like 4 or 5 years, like with sight loss charity, got help from the council for like home adjustments, and started using a symbol cane when I was about 19 or 20, and I think at university I struggled quite a lot and I didn't get the help that I needed there, so I had to keep telling teachers to keep the lights on or turn them up, and they just forget because my disability is quite invisible in the daytime, so yeah, I think that my condition is sort of my superpower now, because I use it and all my experiences to make positive changes and improve accessibility and make places more inclusive. So I like to call myself a bit of a disability activist. So I think I've got so much to say, I don't know what to say first. There was Disability Pride Brighton, which started a few years back. I don't know if it's carrying on anymore, but I did like public speaking there. I spoke on BBC Radio about visual impairment also, and I'm continuing to pursue my volunteering stuff in like my disability advocacy, and like I said, making things more accessible and campaigning for change by using what I have been through. But yeah, shall I speak about the isolation and connection thing and the parents thing? I don't know what to go for next.
All of those would be good. So yeah, how have you dealt with your feelings of isolation and at times, and like self-worth? And
yeah, so I think loneliness is something that we all maybe struggle with, and I think that's like something that maybe secretly connects us as well, even though it can be quite painful. And yeah, I definitely struggled a lot with depression and anxiety in the past, especially when I was about 18. I sort of found myself through a more spiritual route, like with yoga and spirituality and like Buddhist teachings and stuff. And also finding people who shared similar experiences and getting connected with them really helped me as well. So like I went to a young people's social group that was specifically for visually impaired people. That was in Brighton, and that was a monthly thing, and I would go there every month to sort of regain my sense of self and not feel alone, and just talk to people who fully understood, and they are the people that fully understand, because they go through it. And even though there's like the people that don't have the same condition as me, and they have like we all have different conditions, but we all share similar experiences as well, and we can relate to each other. So that helps combat that feeling of aloneness a lot, I think. And also finding a role model is really useful. I don't know if any of you have heard of Molly Burke on YouTube. She's like this motivational person who has retinitis pigmentosa, and she does amazing things and has achieved like so many great things in her advocacy. And I just looked at her and I was like, oh, she's using this for like a positive thing, and it's not all gloom and doom, and maybe I could do this too. And that really inspired me. And there was one more thing, I think I wrote it down. If you have any questions, by the way, then yeah, go ahead. I was also going to talk about the parenting thing.
Yeah, do, because we that's why we want to know how to support our children.
I can't find my notes, but so I think I just want to say first of all that, like, I'm guessing a lot of people on here are parents, and that's in itself, that's like a great step forward to be involved and listening to people on here, because that means that you want to help your child and support them. So that's really nice to sort of experience that there are parents that want to do that. I think from my personal experience, because I didn't get much support in that way, I can sort of pinpoint what would be like, what would have been nicer and better, what I wished would have been different. But also saying that parents do, I think something that has eased my frustration and anger a lot is sort of like believing or affirming to myself that parents, or anyone really, parents do the best that they can with the knowledge that they know. Obviously I don't know, I'm not a parent, but I'm sure like you do everything that you do is out of love for your child, even though it may seem different for them. But yeah, my parents always try to sort of want to fix the condition that I have, which is uncurable. And I think that's a common thing with like parents with their disabled child or children, because I don't know, I'm seeing that in some ways that's part of the process, like wanting your child to be healthy and happy, and wanting to help them by fixing the condition. But also on the flip side, I found that quite sort of detrimental to my well-being, because I like, once you try to fix the condition, it can make the child feel like that they're the problem that needs fixing. And I think that the best advice would be to support your child manage their condition, rather than spending your energy and time on finding solutions to cure the disease, because if that will come, then that's great, that will come and you'll hear about it, And yeah, there's a lot of ways that you could be using your time other than trying to fix something that may be out of your control. I don't know, like, as it could be literally helping them decorate their cane to embrace that. I've seen people do that and I think it's really cool. And yeah, finding a role model for them. That YouTuber is a great one, Molly Burke. Yeah, not making them feel like they're the problem or the condition is the problem, because then they think that they will end up thinking that it's their fault and they're that they're the problem.
Andrea, has there been some questions in chat?
Yes, it is 2 for Naz, which I have right here. So the first one is, do you have VI and non-VI friends? And the second one is, what do you mean when you said your parents tried to fix you? Does that mean they took you loads to doctor's appointments and for second opinions?
Yes,
so you
okay.
can answer those in whichever order.
Okay, so most of my friends are sighted and don't really have any disabilities. One of my friends do have similar conditions to mine, but I don't get to see her much. But yeah, I am mostly surrounded by non-VI people. So volunteering in for blind and visual impairment organizations and stuff is really important and crucial for my well-being, because it means I get to speak to people and connect with people who share similar experiences and are like-minded. So yeah, that's that question. Second question was,
how did your parents try to fix you?
Okay.
What did you mean by that?
Yeah, they definitely took me to a lot of doctor's appointments. We went to Turkey. Well, they're from Turkey, but yeah, lots of eye appointments, and it was year after year, like just of them being like, oh, let's take you to this doctor, let's take you to this doctor. And in the end I was like, actually no, I'm not going through this anymore. I'm not going through these eye tests anymore. Like, this is horrible for me. I don't want to keep hearing that I'm going to be blind at a certain time in my life and like lose more and more of my vision. Like, I know this. Why do I need to keep going through this? Like, this is not helping me in the slightest. So yeah, I think it's harder for parents than the child going through it, because I think it's very confusing for them, and it's hard for them to understand. I think they just try to understand by trying to help in ways that don't help sometimes.
It's also about getting the support. If parents have got really positive kind of habilitation officers and the right people working, they can be shown all the possibilities. So it really depends as well, the kind of professionals, I think, as well, maybe.
Yeah,
you're getting a lot of support. People are saying, somebody said universities are a law to themselves. And everyone's wishing you good luck, and thank you so much for sharing, both of you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Kaya, how do you make connections with people now? Where do you get your sense of belonging from?
So fortunately, when I went to the Royal National College for the Blind, I met a really nice group of friends who I still keep in contact with, and I think it's the fact that we're all vision impaired and blind, and we're all in the same boat, so we understand the daily frustrations that we encounter, which really helps actually. And we were talking every day during in the first lockdown, and that really helped actually, just to share each other's worries or what's happening, that sort of thing, which really helps.
There's another question coming. I'm not sure which one wants to answer. Could you comment on the difference between mainstream and specialist schools?
Yes. when I was at mainstream, my teachers were not, they just did not want to help whatsoever. And for example, in my GCSE mock exam, my teacher lost my papers, but also they gave me a paper exam in font size 12, even though I said to them that I could only read in font size 36, and every other page was upside down to read, so that was also very difficult. And although I'm also colorblind, and they put 3 sections of the exam in 3 different colors, so it's just ridiculous. But when I was at RNC, I felt that the teachers definitely went the extra mile to accommodate your visual impairment, and which really helped so much. And the fact that nothing was a problem as well.
Another question is, and I'm not sure who on the panel would like to answer this, what is the best thing that Open University has done to help? Did you mean Open University or every university?
So for example, when I was at Worcester University, when you handed in your assignment, you press the submit button, it didn't load onto another page, and you didn't receive an email or anything like that. The difference is with Open University, when you press submit, then loads on saying your assignment has successfully been uploaded, and you receive an email. But also, I think it's just a personal touch. Like all of your lecturers give you their contact details, like even their mobile number, to call them if you need any help, which is just fantastic. I think again, it's the personal touch which just helps so much, and it's that they actually want to help as well. Whilst in mainstream university, my experience at Worcester, which is the complete opposite.
I've got something to add as like a don't do or something to parents. So it just popped up. I hadn't written this down, but I think encouragement to your child is very important in terms of like letting them do what they want to do. So that's coming from where my parents didn't let me go on like school trips, or were very funny about me going to university and moving out, and sort of just going out in general, because they were very sort of strict, and I think just scared that I'd injure myself or trip over, or yeah, they weren't giving me that space to learn to be independent, and I had to rebel a lot and just be like, and just go to my university audition thing in secret and tell them as like very near to when I was moving and going out, oh yeah, I'm going to university, like, and I'm moving out, bye. But yeah, so yeah, very like, yeah, try not to be so strict, and believe in your child that they can be independent. I live on my own now, and it's really difficult and it's hard, but I'm learning a lot, and I'm learning a lot of life skills as I go along, and like just from basic things to cooking and just, I don't know, paying the bills and cleaning, which I'm not really good at, but you know, taking bins out and stuff. These are all like life things that build you, and yeah, it's just important for if your child wants to do that and be independent and live on their own, to let them. And yeah, I just wanted to say that, add that in.
I think it's also really important to try to be positive with your child, because I mean, it's very stressful becoming visually impaired or being visually impaired or blind from birth. So try to be as positive as possible, because you know that there are moments in everyone's life where you have some that, you know, very negative days, but things like we will get through this, I think really helps. And my dad, I mean, was fantastic. He really helped me, and he was really positive, so that really helped me.
Thank you both so much. There are a couple more questions, but sorry, Andrew, I was just going to say, if our there's one about playtime and things, and in a minute Charlotte and I are going to share our experiences with our children who are younger, but I will just go through that.
There's a super quick one, which while we got the mentors, is just look up the mentors to somebody aged 11 or so, which is yes, that's the quick answer.
Yeah, the mentor scheme is, I highly recommend it. It's how my daughter has grown in confidence. The mentors, as you can see, are amazing. There is a waiting list, I think, but also we are starting our new sessions. They were called youth forums, but they're going to be called life hacks now. So mentors are going to kind of host these groups, and you don't have to be a mentee to be part of that, so look out for that. We'll make sure that we share it. It's a online group, but it's mentors in charge. The look staff don't have a look in and hopefully it will be really positive. Again, that room, that space for people to chat, share experiences. Sorry, Andrea, were you going to say something else?
Yeah, I was going to say, I think they're taking the next cohort of mentees in winter, but please, if you are interested for your child to be mentored, please put your request in and we can get to you as soon as possible.
Brilliant. So thank you both. You're still here till the end as well, aren't you? So people can carry on putting questions in the chat. But
I unfortunately have to leave. So
okay. Any other questions for Kaya? There's brilliant to hear from Naz and Kaya is a little comment, Naz, so thank you. I think everybody is just, it's so good. So kind of really
one more just for Naz directly was, do you think your parents are strict because you have a disability, or are they just like that? Sorry if I read that wrong.
Yeah. So I think my dad was naturally strict because I'm his first child and daughter, and he's Turkish, and on top of that, the disability thing is something he has admitted as well.
Thank you. So yes,
I just saw a comment about somebody thinking about whether they put their anxieties onto their child, and I just wanted to say, as human beings, we want to self-preserve ourselves and our loved ones, so we constantly look for danger so that we can plan for that danger and keep ourselves safe. So and as human beings as well, we look for patterns, because patterns tell us how to live our lives. So I think when it comes to society, we look for patterns in society, and sometimes when you have a disability or a difference, you don't necessarily fit those patterns. So I think sometimes it really gets you to question, you know, oh, are we strange? Are we not doing the right thing? And I just wanted to kind of reassure, you know, I think it is normal to think like that and normal to look for those anxieties, but it's kind of then having those anxieties, but kind of planning around them and having an open conversation, and kind of being confident in yourself as well, not just your child, but it's being confident in yourself that you're doing enough, you love that child and you love them, and you're promoting their sort of empowerment and independence. And I think, you know, those things are really normal to kind of to think and feel. So sorry, I'll shut up again.
No, that's brilliant, and I agree. Sometimes I think as parents we do get it wrong, and Charlotte M will say she did some sessions, and I always remember the kangaroo. Let's try not to be a kangaroo parent where we don't let them out the pouch, but is it be more dolphin, Charlotte? That kind of nudging support. Yeah, that's what we should aim to do. But it's also, you know, I say to Chloe, I got it wrong when I get stressed or I'm really anxious, and I will explode a bit, I always go back and say I'm sorry, because then she knows that it's okay for her to do it sometimes too, because it's stressful sometimes. Allowing our children to go off and experience things is really nerve-wracking for us, so learning how to hold on to it is hard too. And I think you're all doing a brilliant job. Anyway, I am going to speak now, if that's okay, not for too long, but I wanted to just talk to you a little bit about my daughter. So Chloe, like I said at the beginning, is deafblind, very unique. She doesn't have a syndrome. So we've always had a lot of people working with us, but so there's her dad, but who didn't always have the answers. So she was born profoundly deaf, but she had bilateral cochlear implants at 18 months, where she became so curious about the world. It was very small before then. And we found, so I just got to talk about her kind of her friendships and her kind of experience at school. We've always had one-to-ones, in her case, they're multisensory workers who, alongside me, helped her into the world, would take her out and about and kind of show her different experiences. And they came to school with her as well. And the primary school was really joyful. The head looked at me, and Chloe was there and her dad, and said, we really want Chloe in this school, which really makes a difference. I think from the moment she was there, the way they worked with us as a family, the way all the professionals kind of were respected within the school, the way, you know, I've always felt that Chloe was celebrated, and she was celebrated for who she was, for her disability. There was Sense did a deafblind awareness big event, I think in the first year she was there, and it was a pom-pom challenge, and the school completely took it on board and got all the school making pom-poms, and they made so many, they covered the head, you know, with the pom-poms, and it was in the local paper. But it really celebrated her. This is this child, and she has sensory loss, and we accept her. And I used to go along to the kind of fairs as well and do some Braille. I'd make Braille bookmarks, and I'd teach other people how to do the Braille alphabet, because Chloe is a Brailleist, just so that she wasn't so alien, that people could see how she learnt. We did things like, we changed the sports day, because the first year was totally inaccessible and awful. And I had a very good Senko. I went and said, look, was really hard. And she asked me how we could change it. And that really made a difference, because then Chloe could be part of the school. She did feel she belonged in the school. There were really challenging things. Lunchtime was impossible. She couldn't see her friends. They all flitted in and out. It was really noisy. So they had a quiet club. It was like a cafe, and she chose 2 or 3 friends to go with her. And the friends, I think, felt important, and Chloe had the chance to actually have a conversation over lunch rather than just shut down, which is what she'd do otherwise. So yeah, there were so many things that they kind of put in place that made her feel like she was part of the school. Even on trips, her one-to-one, you know, she did everything. It wasn't always easy. The residential was quite tricky. You know, cochlear implants going missing. They did terrify her by putting her in a kayak in really choppy water. But generally, I couldn't have asked for any more, really. But secondary school, as I'm sure a lot of you have experienced, has been a lot harder, I think, because suddenly they don't want their TAs with them. They feel embarrassed that they have adults. And that's fine. Chloe was really clear. She didn't want them at break or lunchtime, but at the same time, she couldn't find her friends, and she would just shut down and sit on her own outside in the cold. So we found a room for her, and it's on her educational healthcare plan now, that there's a safe space found every year, where a group of her friends could go, and they limit the numbers, because if it's too big, Chloe still has no chance of following conversation, but at least she's part of it. So that, again, was a really, really helpful thing to help her social kind of navigation. She's a lot younger than her peers, so I think one of the hardest things she struggles with is that she doesn't have the same kind of references, cultural references, as everybody else, and that is hard. But I kind of think I've helped her feel and understand that it doesn't matter, that she is her, but it's taken a long time. I mean, year 7, she was hiding in the toilets and crying a lot, and really, it really felt like she hated herself, but she couldn't talk about it. And somebody suggested that she really liked squishies. They're her way of kind of, I don't know, calming herself. So she'd come home from school and she couldn't talk to us, but we put a pot on the table, and a bad day was a lemon squishy because it tasted nasty, and a good day was a cake. So at least we'd know without her saying anything whether she had a good or bad day, and we could reference it. And the other thing she did was her mentor, Andrea, who is on the call and works for Look now, did a little video for her friends just to help explain how she learned, and the fact she wasn't being rude if she, joining in was hard for her. So that was really helpful too. But it has been a real challenge. But the two things that I just want to tell you about before I finish and Charlotte talks about her daughter is she did the school play this year. She tried it in the first year and it was really hard. They didn't know how to include her. She was basically stuck at the side of the stage. Kind of was a bit sad really, but this time they've known her for 3 years. She had her one-to-one from the school, do all the rehearsals as well, which she identified she needed, and she was incredible, and she learned all the choreography, which was quite in depth, and was fully part of it, and she absolutely loved it. And she is hopefully moving on from the school now because it's got a bit hard, but she's being left with this feeling of belonging, because she said there was all these years and she wasn't just the weird blind child anymore, that people knew her and her quirkiness and talked to her now. So that was a really, really, really positive thing, that kind of she found a way of feeling she belonged in the school. And she's just done a 10 tours Jubilee challenge with the school as well on her own, because they don't have a team as a mainstream school, but she walked with her buddy dog 7.9 miles. And what was really nice is that there might not have been any other children from her school walking with her, but all the teachers that were there for the rest of the groups lined up and cheered her. And again, I feel that was good. At least she feels like she belongs, and the teachers recognise her and the teachers value her, and her buddy dog got a medal. So it was very good. But yeah, I just wanted to kind of share a little bit about kind of what Chloe's been through, and how she does say now, I am okay, I'm me. And the other thing we've done is she started going to a youth club with other children with additional needs, and again she says she can just be herself there. So that's really positive. It's not easy, and I wish that it was easier, but actually I feel much more confident now. She's finding her way, and I'm trying to let her tell me when she's had a bad day as well. Okay, so that's me.
Okay, so I'm Charlotte. I'm mummy to Scarlett, who I said before, who has complex needs. So as we've heard from the people who've been speaking today, the visual impairment can cause barriers that can affect mental health, and especially around social situations. So that's a huge barrier for Scarlett. But what I found has made things a bit more difficult for her is the inability to talk. She's actually learning more and more words every day. The new one at the minute is no, which is quite a useful word. You get no everything, no fun, no farm, no walk, no school. But she will never have, she's never expected to have, and I'm at peace with that, a conversational type language. So she kind of just coexists next to her peers, which is fine. And I think a lot of the children are very similar to her in that school, and the way that they get them to interact is like a welcome sing song when they're all in the room, you know, so that everyone's saying their name, and it's kind of creating an identity, and it really helps with you know, when they all first start in the classroom at the beginning of the academic year. A lot of them are very sensitive to different sounds, and there's a lot of noisy kids in the class. So I think it helps them associate a name of a person with a sound, because they're all kind of like low or non-verbal children. And you see steadily throughout the year that they're able to identify each other from attaching the name to the sound. And although it's not a conversational friendship, it's still an interaction. It's still them. It's still a peer group. It's still them learning each other's noises. And there's a little girl in Scarlett's class who was a massive fan of like the noisy cause and effect toys, and her and Scarlett are both very keen on one of them. So there's a whole session about it's Paige's turn, and then Paige gets to hold the toy and listen to the noises, and then Scarlett gets to hold that toy and listen to the same noises, which they can both hear. I think they're just both very assertive young ladies who want the toy in their hand and the noise right next to their ear. So I think what I'm trying to say by that is that her friendships may not always look the same as normal friendship groups, and Scarlett will always have 24-hour care. There'll always be someone kind of in charge of her safety. There are alternative ways around that, especially when it comes to things like autism and social cues. You know, it's coexisting to an extent, but she does say friends, and she will mention certain names of people in the class, and that would have stuck in her head, and then she would have had that ability to say that word or that name because it's meaningful for her. And although we can't see that it's meaningful, they won't ever go like on a night out together or anything like that. You know, it is her being used to having other people in her life other than just her parents and her teacher. So I think the complex needs school that she attends has really supported that. I must admit that I did get like a little bit upset when it came to things like birthdays, because Sonny's got, my little boy who has no additional needs, has 30 children in his class, and we can invite all of them to all the parties that they've had over the years. And then I always used to like overcompensate with Scarlett, like take her on holiday, or, you know, because she couldn't have parties. But like last year, I just thought, right, who are all the people that talk to Scarlett when they see her out and about in our like local community? Who are the people whose names she remembers? You know, and it wasn't actually any children that came along because the environment wouldn't have been suitable for them, but like ex-key workers from her school who had moved on to different professions came along. She really likes karaoke night, and there's a couple of people at karaoke night that always make a real effort, and she'll go and sit on their knee, and although she doesn't have a conversation. So I just invited all kind of like random people like that, really, but it was a brilliant party. And I actually thought, this is like Scarlett's tribe. These are people that Scarlett knows, and they've made the effort to interact with her. So yeah, I don't feel so bad about birthday parties anymore. What was a big changing thing for Scarlett was the change in her care package, because I was concerned that Scarlett would just be mum, school, mum, school, mum, school. But now she has short breaks access. Goes to that one night a week, 52 weeks of the year, which was amazing for me to get and very expensive. But she just goes and hangs out with her here in that house, and she goes out with the carers, and no, they're not sitting and chatting, but it's a sighted 12-year-old girl would go and hang around at her friend's house and have an evening with her. I just wanted to be able to do Scarlett's version of that. And she really enjoys it. And I'm also mindful as well that I'm really keen for her to live independently when she's older. And I think putting her into that short breaks overnight environment will be a good way to create the stepping stones that she'll probably be more likely to go into like a supported living arrangement if she's used to sharing a living space with someone else, so that when she does move into somewhere, it would be more like you know, like a small house share rather than just an apartment on her own, because that you know, I know she'd always have a carer there with her, but that frightens me, that it would just be Scarlett and whatever carer was working with her at that time. So the short breaks is really important. We've got that in place, and I'm hoping that we'll be able to increase the nights as she kind of gets to her late teen years, so that when she does go into independent living at 25, that she's just so used to it, it'll be second nature, and she will be able to create a house around her of people who she knows and is happy to spend time with. So it's more like a fun house share rather than a supported living environment, I suppose. And another big thing we got through via a care plan was PA hours. And I was very lucky because the PA, I think the PA would do it for free, to be honest. She bit my hand off for the role of supporting Scarlett in that way. And they go out and have their night out, and they go and do something lovely, and Scarlett knows her name, and she's always known it. She's an ex-key worker from Scarlett's school who got in touch via social media, and they've got this lovely friendship now, like an employee. So yeah, so Scarlett really has got a very healthy social life, and I think I've always been concerned that she would become isolated, and you know, maybe she'd just keep her with me forever, you know, so that she would never be lonely, but that it's not sustainable, and I'm very much likely gonna die before her. So I wanted to have her version of independence, and I don't want her version of independence of just being used to be sat on her own with the music, with a carer just coming in and checking in on her. I want her to have a full life with plenty of access to opportunities. So yeah, so my segment is for any of the parents in here who've got children who are not just visually impaired, but have got issues around speech and language and communication and social cues, and perhaps who might always require 24-hour care. So I'm sorry if it's not been completely relevant to all of you guys, but me and Jane wanted to touch on this, didn't we, really? Because we do find often that there are people that have got complex needs children in the crowd. What do we call you? In my viewers?
In our community.
Yeah, in our community. So I wanted to touch on that, and I read one of the comments earlier about the yard and the children. I would, if that was me, and I know I've not had to face it because Scarlett is in this protective specialist education bubble, but I would say, and what I did for my little boy, because he was experiencing some embarrassment around people staring at his sister, I went and did some awareness development within the school, and I also did it at his beaver troop, and I got them quite young, and I got them to kind of understand what visual impairment is, you know, why they use canes, what Braille is, and I spoke to them about what it's like when people stare and how it can make people feel uncomfortable. So I would say to that comment about people being concerned about, you know, their child getting included in the yard was, you know, October's the perfect time for it, because it's Blindness Awareness Month, and it should really be in the curriculum anyway, that there is a session, especially in primary school, covered with that, and I'd be happy to show the resource for the sessions that I've run previously. But yeah, I think sometimes you do have to go to the school and just say this is happening, and I think this will help, because sometimes you don't really know how to help, and and friendships don't always have to go two ways, and you don't always have to like someone, and you don't always have to like someone back. So it's kind of forcing a friendship, I suppose, and it can be quite difficult then if the people have felt like they're made to look after this other person. But I think awareness days are a really subtle way of letting children, especially who are part of their school community, and a greater understanding for how visual impairment affects them, is a good way to do that. So if anyone is experiencing that, I would want some advice around awareness sessions and approaching schools about including stuff in the curriculum around visual impairment. I'd be happy to help with that. getting very conscious. I'm talking at the end of the session.
No, it's really good. It's true. Yeah, so I think letting the school know and talking to them about good inclusion. One of the things that we've put in the resources is kind of having trained kind of people at playtime, because actually if they don't understand what your child needs, because there needs to be instigation, and when they're younger, very much that's what Chloe's TAs used to do. They would help her engage with other people. They would set up ball games, it was more on Chloe's terms. But if your child doesn't have one-to-one at playtime or lunchtime, then making sure that there's always people kind of supervising, that they have some understanding, and that's really key. So training for teachers and also training for the young people, awareness, understanding, and look also offers that to schools wherever we can. So yeah, between us there's hopefully some useful tips there.
There's been a message in the chat. I'm not sure if she's still here, because I think she left. She might come back in. A mother of a 15-year-old daughter is finding that the provision of education is having an effect on her daughter's mental health. So she is now doing a survey with University College London, and she's asked if any of you want to do the survey to get in touch with her, and her email address is in the chat.
We'll make sure we share that as well.
Yeah, we will take it. But
I don't know if any panel members have got any reflections, Melissa?
It's been really, really interesting hearing what everyone has to say. And I think the main thing that I'd say as well, not being a parent, but being a child, and seeing how Hawaiian has just put in the chat our social anxiety work. Thank you. Just moving off my screen reader because it rabbits in my own, it confuses me. But she's just posted the social anxiety workbook in the chat, and that's something that we use with our clients. But I think, being a child and actually having supportive parents that I know not everyone's sort of had, I think it's really important as well from the parent. And I rabbit on about this quite a lot. I know Charlotte's already heard about it, but it's about compassion fatigue and about burnout as well. And I think we're all susceptible to that, but I think when everyone's caring as much as they do, and I think maybe sometimes certainly I've seen my parents really fight for me in education, and fight for me through to empower me to be able to have these conversations with kind of disability services at my university to make sure I got exactly what I needed. I think it's just to sort of warn parents about compassion fatigue and burnout, and make sure while you're doing this amazing job for all your children that you have time to take your parent hat off, because I can't imagine how exhausting that must be, having that level of care and that level of anxiety for your child. So I think it's really important to remember as well, before you were mum, like you were Jane and Charlotte, and I think it's really important to make sure that you have those times as well, because although like your child's identity is really important, they need to see as well that you can have time out, you can have time for yourself, and that's okay. That doesn't impact. So I think for me, I think that's kind of the one thing we've not touched on, is actually really take care of yourselves and show that self-love, the best thing for I think when we're young especially, is to see that self-love starts at home. Love starts with you, and I think maybe sort of reflecting that for your children is really important.
Thank you. That
was a really good point, Melissa, actually.
But I think we forget, and I think we have so many hats, we all have so many hats, and I think having you can just have that you hat and take a bit of time out before, because I'm really conscious that if we live with anxiety for a long time, that can develop into like anxiety stress disorder. And then if you don't take care of you, we always say you can't pour from an empty cup. And I think it's really important that you all take time out and fill up your cups, go to that water fountain and fill it back up.
Do I absolutely agree. I started this group partly because I wanted to have that connection with other parent carers with visually impaired children and build a community. And I really enjoyed, being able to listen and share these experiences and give is really key too. But absolutely, every parent that comes to the group needs to look after themselves. And Charlotte and I, next week, Charlotte, we're going to talk, and we'd love anybody who can to come to the session, and Charlotte will send a link to the Zoom meeting. But also let's talk about how we look after our own mental health as part of it, because I think that, you know, we're having a follow-up session, let's include our own mental health in it as well. I think that will be important.
Yeah, so yeah, because I know as a parent I've experienced isolation, just because, well, unless I talk to you guys, there's not really anyone else in my world who have children with disabilities. So this is why I find these sessions so important, and this is why I was absolutely mental on going every single event up and down the country. When Scarlett was first diagnosed, it was just something that I did to reach out, and it did really help me. So I'm glad that these things still exist. I know obviously Vic's a lot of events for parents to connect, and I'm doing some stuff with different organisations around early years work as well. So yeah, if you could join us next week for the follow-up session, we could discuss a little bit of that if people wanted to. Well, I always offer these up, but I think people are that concerned and worried more about their children, that they're less concerned about their own mental health. But I think it's really important that you look after yourself before you can help someone else. Because I know when I'm stressed and anxious, I'm a bit of a rubbish mum. So yeah.
There are a few more comments coming in. I realise I have said that it'd go on till 9:30. We are going to finish early, which is good. I forgot to mention that the British Blind cricket team ended up having a practice this evening, so I'm sorry they're not here, but we're going to get some kind of input from them through different means, maybe even video them so that we can send that on to you afterwards. Andrea, is there anything that we can mention before?
Naz has put in the chat that yoga is really good for mental health, and I just going to say Naz is vision impaired, as we know, and she's training to be a yoga coach. Definitely check that out. And somebody else commented, do we find that girls engage more with look services, or do you find that girls are okay in their own friendship groups?
I don't know. What do you think? I think
it's mixed.
Yeah.
But we can get back to you on that one because it's a great question.
We're hoping to have as a kind of combined look event. We can't run the Look Fest this year because there's been so many changes, but we're going to have a family wellbeing weekend towards the end of the year, so I'll make sure everyone knows about it, because it's for all of us, for our young people to meet and be connected, to meet mentors and have fun with them, but for us as well as parent carers to get together and have fun, and also look into, maybe Naz can do some yoga for us, but that's something to look forward to as well. I know there was another question, but I think we're running out of time. I shall end it now. Thank you, Andrea, for your support with the chat. And everyone else, you're a star.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care, everyone. Lovely to meet you.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.